All right, future founders, welcome. Today, we are diving into one of the most essential skills you will ever learn as an entrepreneur, financial analysis. Now, I know it might sound a little intimidating, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll see that knowing your numbers is your single greatest superpower in business. So, let's jump right in with a pretty big debate in the business world. In one corner, you've got the idea that business is pretty much a science. It's all about data, hard facts. The idea here, from folks like Doug Richard, is that you make decisions based on solid information and analysis, not just a gut feeling. But then, in the other corner, you have a completely different take. Author Tom Peters says, hold on a second. Real innovation, the kind of stuff that really changes things, doesn't come from a spreadsheet. Nope. It comes from people. People who are just plain ticked off with the way things are and are driven to create something way better. And the legendary Peter Drucker, he basically doubles down on this. He claims that, at the end of the day, the real measure of a business isn't its profit, but its ability to grow and develop its people. So, which one is it? Is it about the numbers, or is it about the people? Data or passion? Well, here is the secret. It's not one or the other. It's not a competition. You absolutely need both. Think of it like this. Your passion and your people, that's the engine of your business. But the financial information, that's your headlights. Without it, you're just driving blind in the dark and hoping you don't crash. It all boils down to this. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. Period. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why these numbers are so critical. Then we'll get into what makes data actually useful, not just a bunch of numbers. After that, we're going to get our hands dirty and analyze a real business, Serena's Candles. And finally, we'll see how you take all that data and turn it into smart decisions. All right, section 1. Let's dig into the why. And I want you to think about this not like it's homework, but like it's the most powerful tool you'll have as a founder. So, what exactly are we talking about here? Well, financial analysis is really just the process of looking at a company's numbers to understand its overall health. Is it profitable? Is it stable? Could it pay its bills if things got a little tight? It's kind of like a doctor giving a business a checkup to see how it's really doing. Okay, so having a bunch of numbers is one thing, but having data you can actually use, that's a whole different ballgame. Let's look at what turns raw numbers into a powerful toolkit for making smart moves. For data to be truly useful, it needs 5 things. First, it has to be shareable. I mean, it's got to be simple enough that everyone on your team gets it. It has to be reliable, so accurate and up to date. It needs to be relevant to whatever decision you're trying to make. It absolutely must be unbiased. And finally, it has to be comparable, so you can see how you're doing this year versus last year, or even see how you stack up against the competition. Okay, theory is great and all, but let's see this stuff in action. We are about to become financial analysts for a small business to see what kind of story we can uncover from the numbers. So let's meet Serena's Candles. For the next few minutes, you and we're on her team, and our job is to dig into her financial statements and figure out what's really going on with the business. Whoa. Okay, so this is her profit and loss statement. And yeah, at first glance, that's a lot of numbers. It's pretty dense, a little complicated, and honestly, not very easy to understand. This totally breaks that first rule we just talked about, right? It's not very shareable. So what do? We simplify it. See? That's way better. By just collapsing some of those details, the big picture becomes so much clearer. Remember, simple and understandable is the goal. Now we can actually see what's going on and get to work. You know, the number one question every single founder has is, are we growing? To figure that out, we use a tool called horizontal analysis. It's simple. We just compare data from one year to the next. So let's look at Serena's revenue from 2019 to 2020. And boom, there it is. Her revenue grew by more than $16,000. That's an 8.7% jump in 1 year. That's a fantastic sign. This one simple calculation tells us the business is definitely heading in the right direction. That's the power of this stuff. But, growth is just one piece of the puzzle. The next big question is, okay, so where is all that money going? For that, we use something called vertical analysis. And we can see here that in 2020, about 10.6% of every dollar that came in the door went to paying her staff. What's really cool is if you look back a few years, that number was actually higher, over 12%. So she's getting more efficient over time, spending less on labor to make more money. Okay, so we've checked out her profits. But for the whole story, we need to look at another super important document, the balance sheet. This is basically a snapshot of what the company owns and what it owes on a single day.
And one of the key things this tells us is about something called working capital. The easiest way to think about this, it's like the company's financial safety net. It tells you how healthy the business is in the short term and if it can handle its day-to-day bills without breaking a sweat.
And the math here is super simple, which is great. You just take your current assets, that stuff you own that can be turned into cash pretty quickly, and you subtract your current liabilities, the bills you have to pay soon. So for Serena, check this out. At the end of 2020, she had almost $215,000 in working capital. That is a massive cushion. It means she can breathe easy, she's got tons of flexibility, very little financial stress, and she's in a great position to jump on new opportunities. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've crunched the numbers. Now for the most important part. What do we do with this information? How do we turn it into a real-world insight to guide the business? So, what did we just learn about Serena's candles? What's the story here? Well, in just a few minutes, we found out 3 really important things. 1, we know the business is growing at a nice, steady pace. 2, it's getting more efficient with how it spends money. And 3, it is financially solid with a lot of flexibility. See? The numbers told us a clear, really positive story. But here's the final piece, and it's so important. This analysis doesn't mean anything if it just sits in a spreadsheet on your computer. Like former IBM CEO Ginny Rometty said, your real value as a leader comes from what you can share. Being able to take this financial story and tell it to your team, to investors, that's where the magic happens. So look, you now have the fundamental tools to look at a business and understand the story its numbers are telling. So the last question I have is for you. As you go out there and start building your own amazing things, what story are you going to find in your numbers? And what story are you going to tell the world?